In a small village nestled in a quiet valley, there stood an ancient tree strung with lanterns that had warmed and lit every home for as long as anyone could remember. But one evening, as the sky turned to dusk, its light began to flicker and fade. From her window, a young girl named Luma watched the tree grow dimmer and dimmer, and she knew, deep down, that someone had to do something before the last light went out. She knelt beside it in the village square, touching its weakest lantern, whispering for it to hold on just a little longer. That's when her friend Pip rolled up beside her, a small, kind-hearted robot with a lantern for a hand and a heart full of courage. Without a moment's hesitation, Luma asked if he'd come with her into the woods to find a way to save the tree. And of course, he said yes. They packed what little they could carry, and as the sun dipped low, they left the village behind and stepped toward the dark line of trees at its edge, brave, a little frightened, but determined. The whispering woods rose around them like giants, towering and ancient, filled with shafts of golden light and secrets older than the village itself. Luma and Pip walked side by side, leaning on each other with every step, sharing quiet words and quieter fears. Before long, they came to a rushing stream, blocked by a fallen log. The water looked strong, and for a moment, Luma wasn't sure they could cross, but Pip reached out his glowing hand, and together, one careful step at a time, they made it to the other side. As night deepened, the woods grew heavier with shadow, and alone for just a moment, Luma felt very small and very far from home. She wondered if they'd make it in time, but Pip sat beside her, his lantern hand glowing warm against the dark, and reminded her that she never had to be brave alone. Further on, they stumbled into a hidden clearing that shimmered with soft blue light, and there, they met a gentle guardian of the forest, ancient and wise, with antlers made of glowing moss. Luma asked for its help, and it leaned down and shared a secret, that what the tree needed wasn't magic at all, but a spark of true friendship. Night stretched on, and they made camp beneath a sky full of stars, sharing a small fire and a quiet, honest conversation about fear and courage, and how much less frightening the dark feels with someone you trust beside you. When morning came, golden and warm, they rose with new hope in their hearts and pressed on toward the heart of the woods, toward the ancient grove where the answer was waiting. But the path wasn't easy. A wall of thorny brambles rose before them, and for a moment it seemed impossible. Yet Luma set her jaw, steadied herself, and refused to turn back, and Pip, glowing brighter than ever, carefully lit a path through the thorns for her to follow. At last, they reached the heart of the grove, and there stood the great lantern tree, its light almost completely gone, its branches cold and still. Luma pressed her hands against its ancient bark and whispered that she believed in it, that it only needed to hold on a little longer. Then she did something quietly, brave. She took off her glowing compass necklace, the one thing she carried with her the whole journey, and placed it into Pip's open hand. Together, their light began to grow, and slowly, so slowly, warmth began to spread up through the tree's ancient roots. The glow climbed higher and higher, spreading through every branch, until the entire tree burst into brilliant, golden light, alive again, more radiant than anyone had ever seen it. Luma and Pip stood beneath it, laughing, hardly believing what they'd done. They made their way home as the sun rose behind them, and the whole village gathered beneath the tree to celebrate its return, its light shining warmer than ever before. And that evening, as the village settled into peace, and the tree glowed softly above them, Luma sat beside her best friend and said what she'd learned on their long journey, that home is always brighter with a friend beside you. Because in the end, the truest light isn't found alone in the darkness. It's kindled by courage, kept alive by friendship, and shared freely, so that everyone around you can grow warm in its glow.